Welcome to today's webinar, using Marketo Sales Insight to maximize intelligence and convert sales. Today, I've got joining me Joe from our team, who's going to be speaking a bit later on, and I think some of you will already have spoken to him. We at JTF Marketing work across a range of industries and use cases, all related to Marketo. We're a specialist Marketo organization. We're generally helping our customers maximize their investment in Marketo, make sure they're using every bell and whistle and feature that can really help them drive more leads or attribute more revenue to marketing efforts. So if you've got any challenges, we love a challenge. So please do raise your hand and say, hey, I've been trying to do this for a long time. How do I do this? Please let us know. We'd love to talk about your challenges and definitely see if we can share some ideas with you in order to help you overcome those. So as I say, today, I've got Joe Phillip, our head of business development, on this call. He's a sales guy who's using Marketo Sales Insight on a daily basis. So hopefully he'll give us some insights into how he's interacting with our marketing team and how he's using Marketo Sales Insight to help him navigate the complex world of sales. Of course, we're going to get into what is Marketo Sales Insight and how can we best apply it to our businesses. And we'll go through a quick checklist of how can we set it up and how do we get the most out of it, and ensuring that we're maximizing the capability, which is often included in our license fee. Most of the licenses from Marketo include up to 5 seats, unless you've been asked to take it out. So that's definitely a feature that you should look at using. So let's get started with what is Marketo Sales Insight. The idea behind this widget that you embed in your Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics CRM is ultimately to serve up the intelligence that marketing have generated through marketing activity and also give future sight into activities that is coming down the line. Now, we've probably got all those naggy questions, right? Saying, you know, can I have a copy of the email? Can I approve the email, et cetera, et cetera? This is the tool that's going to help you overcome some of those challenges. When we talk about prioritization, lead follow-up, lead engagement, activity tracking, Marketo Sales Insight is building a sales actions tool to help you navigate that activity. We're trying to centralize everything into your CRM and keep the users engaged in CRM, which is important, and giving them all of those various insights that we've captured. So if you've been using interesting moments already within Marketo, you will be able to surface them up here for your team to see. If you've been tracking web activity using the Munchkin code, again, they'll be able to see that as well. And any score changes, any emails that go out, or any calls that are logged and integrated into the Marketo tool. We'll also talk about some of the actions, and I'll let Joe take us through some of the actions that he's using through Marketo Sales Insight in order to engage different leads and contacts within CRM and within Marketo. But ultimately, all of this is aimed at the sales audience, right? So it's a tool that we have in our bag from a marketing perspective in order to simplify the activity and present it back to our sales team to support them in the sales process. I'm going to pass over to Joe now because he's worked quite heavily with Helen on our marketing team in terms of using MSI on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, thanks, James. And I think, you know, MSI is one of those functionalities that really starts to knit together that partnership and collaboration between sales and marketing. And, you know, most businesses have the same challenge around marketing and sales alignment. It's been a bit of a buzzword across the industry probably for a number of years now. And I think when we start to look at different tools and functionalities that can help with that, MSI is 100% in that camp. And it's about effectively pulling through all of the insights and data that we already have in Marketo, but presenting that in a way that actually allows your sales team to use that data. And I think that's the key part here. And hopefully we'll start to see some of the functionalities and use cases behind that. And I think, you know, as we've highlighted here on the slide, it's definitely helps to answer some of the questions, the common questions that sales teams will ask in terms of, you know, what content are these people receiving? I've got these people in a live opportunity at the moment. When are they going to be receiving some more content? What is the nature of that content? Can we send them something else? You know, how do I share a really high value white paper or brochure or download in a way that is professional, in a way that gives us trackability and I guess takes off the trackability box for the marketeers, as well as making sure that we're delivering that you know, high quality asset to the prospects that we're engaging with. And I think it also really starts to answer the questions around what are those target audiences actually engaging with? And at that granular level, right? So we can look very much at a contact or lead level and see actually, yeah, James is, registering for all our webinars, which is great. And then he's going off and downloading resources that are specific towards data hygiene, for instance, in our world. And it just allows us to build that picture of intelligence on a specific individual, but also at an account level. So then we can start to roll that into an account view to say, actually, we've got 3 or 4 people who are all engaging with data hygiene as a topic. And actually, we're getting some really good engagement there, and it might start to build a picture of actually what's the best play to start a meaningful conversation with that account. We can also roll that into opportunity level as well. So as I mentioned, where we've got live opportunities and we've got people associated to those opportunities, we can start to see the engagement of those users. So again, that can really help us progress deals and also make sure that we're engaging people at the right times. We can see here the interesting moments tab. For instance, if you've got a live opportunity and you can start to see that specific contacts within that opportunity are visiting your pricing page or going and checking out specific areas that are relevant to the opportunity that you're working on, it just starts to help build a picture of when's the right time to get back in touch with these people, how are we going to move it forward, what are the best next steps. And keeping momentum in deals is probably the number one challenge for salespeople out there. So anything that we have at our fingertips to help deliver that from an intelligent starting point is always beneficial. And we'll see on some of the other screenshots some of the other functionality here, but I think it's just worth picking up on some of the bits in terms of the insights, obviously, which gives you the rolled up view. You can look across different weeks, different months, see which types of content people are engaging with, whether they're visiting web pages, and then obviously you build out your own interesting moments based on what's important and what's maybe hand raisers or maybe just key activities that you think are actually going to provide that value to the sales team. And I would probably suggest that that's an activity that's mapped out in collaboration between the 2 departments. The web activity starts to give you all of the web activity. So again, you can see, are they browsing around the whole website or are they looking at specific pages themselves? I think the only piece to call out that's cut off from that screenshot there is around the urgency and the engagement scores that it gives you. And you've got some little icons with flames showing you how engaged and what the score rolls into from an MSI perspective. And then we have another view within Salesforce and Dynamics to look at more of a rolled up database view, which can be sorted based on the highest level engagement. And that's all about being able to identify those most engaged individuals across the database to look at how we can get in touch with them and start those engaging, meaningful conversations. Thank you. So one of the nice things that we can do here is actually start email subscriptions. So if you've got salespeople who are looking after a specific book of accounts, or you're following a specific ABM model, you've identified some key target accounts, key target individuals, you can begin to set up different subscriptions for different types of interesting moments. So for instance, as you can see here in the example on screen, I can either subscribe directly to everything that Helen's doing as an interesting moment. So every time she visits the homepage, it may be more relevant to pick some kind of service or pricing pages or something like that that's going to give you a bit more insight in terms of where their intent and what the level of intent to buy would be. But equally, we could set that up across the whole account. So I could have a subscription for any meaningful engagement for everyone associated to the JTF marketing account in CRM. So again, as we're starting to target different accounts, as we're looking for different door openers and conversation starters, this is really where that starts to build from and starts to give us the tools as a sales department to go in and use the insights that we're already collecting as a business. All of this already exists, and I think that's a key message here, that actually we've already got all of this data in Marketo, but in many cases, we're just not feeding it into the sales team in a way that is easy to digest and easy for them to actually take action from. And I think that's the key thing, is how do we use data and insights for action that's ultimately going to drive more opportunities, more revenue, more meaningful conversations.
And it's worth noting there, the thing that we always get pushed back on as marketers, right, is I don't want all those emails, but then you get someone else who says, I do want all those emails. They're really useful. So it's, again, allowing people to choose what they want to see when they want to see it as well, based on their own controls and without having to try and find that one size fits all.
Absolutely. And so then taking that a little bit further, and I think we kind of just touched on some of the concept here, is how do we actually start to have sales actions from MSI? So this might be that I've had a really good conversation with James. He showed interest in a specific topic, and we've actually got an event happening. How do I get him invited to that event without sending that as another chat message or another email to the marketing team asking them to send an invite? So simply there's sales actions as part of the MSI widget on a contact or lead record, which would just allow me to add them to a specific campaign. So that might be to add them into an event invitation campaign. It might be sending them a brochure or a specific asset white paper, a case study. There's lots of different ways that we can do that. And we can obviously set up some fairly simple campaigns that can just be published to MSI to allow them to have access to do that. So again, events is a great example where you're maybe not doing a mass invite to the whole database. You're highlighting specific individuals that you want to attend, and there's also that nice way of adding personalization to say, actually, yeah, let me get that invite across to you. So it's all about giving them the power to actually do some of the actions that ultimately ends up being manual and more conversation between sales and marketing to activate.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting here that obviously we're building these campaigns in Marketo. They can be glossy emails, they can be personalized text emails, depending on what your email template handles within Marketo, but ultimately allowing you to personalize it on their behalf as well. So it's a very specific campaign that can definitely boost some results. Talking of emails.
Absolutely. And obviously the next part of that is then being able to actually send specific emails out of the MSI widget, again, making sure that it's carrying the right styling. As you can see there in that example, they can be pre-populated, but it also allows that salesperson to just customize and personalize to that next level. So they're not writing the email from scratch. You're not writing the email from scratch as a marketeer, but it's allowing you to form templates that can be easily updated, easily executed. Again, allowing the full trackability that we have from Marketo emails, and delivering that consistent brand look and feel, keeping everything in the right format, which I know marketers often feel very passionately about.
I thought you were going to say precious about there, Joe, but you went for passionate, which is the right word. And again, I think one of these things is, when we start thinking about how do we apply Marketo into an ABM play as well, this is really important, right? Because we can build out playbooks for certain types of customers, ICPs. And I think one of the things where we found this tool really useful for a range of clients, not only having assets on demand and ready to send to people, but also that piece, as Joe, you rightly say, you want to contextualize the message back to the customer. You want to engage them based on the interactions they've had. But how does marketing support that? How do we give you the content, the structures, right? And this is the real value of this tool, is actually starting to build out assets that we know work and we can track whether they work to support mid to bottom of the funnel activity. I'm always talking about using in engagement programs specifically personalized content for those mid to bottom of the funnel streams, because actually they're already engaging with the salesperson. So the content shouldn't come from marketing. It should come from Joe, the sales guy, or whoever's leading the account. And that's really, really important, right? Because again, how do we make sure that we're personalizing that experience? It is one-to-one, but on scale. And I think, again, these tools can be really helpful in doing so. So thank you, Joe, for taking us through those. And I know there's a million other use cases that we're starting to play around with. So if you'd like to learn more about what Joe and Helen have been up to using MSI, then feel free to reach out or ask any questions that you've got in the Q&A as we go through. And ultimately, what we'll look for to the end of this conversation is to try and just tie that up. Do you want to have a better, deeper conversation about Marketo Sales Insight for your business and how it can be applied? We can definitely support you in that conversation. So getting MSI deployed can often be a pain point. A lot of people have started, they've tried, they've failed, they've given up. Often there's a translation, let's say, between Marketo terminology into Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics terminology, and how do we get this to work, right? There's a couple of key steps that we've got to go through first. First part is configuring Sales Insight in Marketo. So we've got to go into the admin section, as you'll see in the screenshot here, and actually go down into Sales Insight and start to configure what do we want this widget to appear in our CRM. How do we want flames and stars to then represent certain scores or behaviors? And equally, what are the configuration details that we need for the CRM itself? Once we've configured it here, we have to go and configure in Salesforce anyway, a remote site in order to have access to Marketo. And then we've got to deploy the actual installation of the app. So in the App Exchange in Salesforce, you can find it, or in Microsoft Dynamics, it's a package that you need to install. Once you've got that installed, we've got to configure it with REST API information, because it's the REST API that's reading the Marketo database and pulling that back in to CRM through this widget to allow your sales team to interact. We've then got to deploy it onto the different page layouts. We normally see it on a lead, a contact, and an account, because you can see that account summary view as well. And that's really useful. Again, if you're working in ABM or you're trying to grow an account, seeing what's happening in the account can be really important, even if it's just support tickets, right? We've then got to map some of the custom fields that sit behind Sales Insight, lead score fields, last touch, interesting moment, etc. And they're used in different ways and for different reasons. And then we can start to actually customize what the user sees on that widget. So within Salesforce, we can hide certain elements of that widget and slowly build it up over time, because actually one of the biggest challenges about deploying MSI is getting people to use it. And if you throw a load of information at your sales team all at once, there will be a sheer panic of, great, what do I do with all this? How do I summarize it? How do I start to apply it? Which takes me nicely into my next slide, which is training is absolutely essential for getting MSI to work. And sadly, it's not a one-time job. It's going to be continual. And I always see that this kind of releasing of certain features and functionality often helps by keeping the good stuff to the end and working our way up through, okay, now you've got web activity. Now you can start to see some of the web engagement. Now you can start to see some of these interesting moments that we've developed together and continually developing. You get some feedback on those, you optimize them. Like I saw this one that we had in the screenshot earlier with the web page, homepage visit, and going, yeah, that's probably a bit noisy actually. So we probably need to take that away and simplify it into an interesting moment of pricing pages, of services pages that keeps the detail very organized. That ongoing optimization piece is the same scenario as lead scoring, right? We're going to constantly optimize the lead scoring model for win-loss data. Where are we winning? Where are we failing? How do we improve? And how do we keep that momentum of the model and keep the engagement with sales? I think then the big question that always comes up is around content, right? So that mid to bottom of the funnel content, what should we create? How do we support? Again, getting your fact sheets and data sheets into Marketo, just so that you can start to track what actually makes a difference, what is influencing a sale, can be really, really important. Now, if you need some help structuring a sales training or even a marketing training program around MSI, it's something that we're actually starting to build out. And I'll skip through a slide very quickly. We're going to be launching a Marketo Sales Insight training dedicated session focused on driving use of this capability. So if you're interested, scan the QR code. It will be in our follow-up email as well. But it's definitely going to help you maybe just get it set up from a marketing side and then deploy it from a sales user perspective as well, because there's almost two sides to this, right? There's the marketing user getting everything configured and ready, and what's the evolution and the communication plan around it. And then from the sales user perspective, how do I use this in my account? How do I scale what I'm doing? How do I understand what works? And what's going to help me make a sale, right? At the end of the day, we're here to encourage sales to make the sale in a faster amount of time.